Hey, y'all, and welcome to What's Next Wall Street. I'm Georgia Alfredas.
And y'all, I'm Dave Mathews. So we're talking stocks, crypto, and all things DeFi. And of course, we've got the latest in tech covered on this show. This week, I'm bringing you to South by, that's what the cool kids call it, in Austin, Texas. And also, I went to the Gaming Developers Conference in San Francisco. And we're going to talk about Trump AI-generated arrest photos. Please note he was not arrested.
Oh, boy. All right, I've got details on all the hot new trending products that everybody's talking about using and investing in. And today, am I old? Because every store I grew up going to is basically gone. Sears, Montgomery Ward's, you go to Montgomery Ward's?
Yeah.
Sanger Harris, Toys R Us, Blockbuster, and now Foot Locker? Not yet. Not yet. We'll talk more about that with Greg. All right. Greg is our lead instructor at OptionsPlayers.com. Now, Greg, he's kind of a stock wizard. He charts the trends, and his chart indicators can help show whether a particular stock is headed up or down.
Now, we've got a goal here. It's to provide you with education, info, and tips so you can stay up to speed with what's next on Wall Street and stack some money gains. So it's an interactive show. We need your emails. Hit us up, WNWS, What's Next Wall Street at OptionsPlayers.com. Or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street with your questions.
Yes.
We can also direct you to industry experts at Options Players who can help you bone up on trading fundamentals.
Bone up. Who wrote that? I know. Who says bone up? You're old. If you haven't taken a class or one of their live sessions, by the way, and you're just out here trading willy-nilly, Stop. You can watch this episode on the Options Players YouTube channel and or listen to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. So right now, before we really get started, click subscribe and alert so that you always know what's next on Wall Street. You can hit that thumbs up button too.
You can ring my bell.
Ring my bell. Teleprompter don't know this song.
All right, TikTok will be banned on all parliamentary devices and networks in, not the US, but the United Kingdom.
Okay.
So this follows a similar ban on the Chinese-owned social media app on UK government devices. Of course, the head of TikTok testified in the US, stating that their owner is not an agent of China for hours. He was like on the stand for 5 hours before Congress recently. And so the former CEOs of failed Silicon Valley and signature banks will find themselves in the hot seat as well if the Senate Banking Committee has its way. So the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank was the largest bank failure in the US since the 2008 financial crisis. It's been prompting concern about the odds of recession. Now, Goldman Sachs economists predict there's a 35% chance in the US that we'll experience a recession in the next 12 months. Maybe I can buy some more cheap Porsches.
I got one you can have.
Oh, no, yours is a 4-door. I like the 2 doors. But this prediction increased by 10 percentage points following the fall of SVB and signature banks earlier in the month. Now, recession fears have remained prevalent as the Federal Reserve continues to hike interest rates to tame inflation. Is that working?
I mean, doesn't seem to be. They're not the only ones, though. According to a recent study, almost 200 banks across the country could collapse if half of their depositors make a bank run. Even insured depositors at those at-risk banks could face issues getting their money if the same type of quick withdrawals happen. Now, the head of Citigroup says that the recent bank failures are not a sign of systemic trouble in the financial system, and that Signature and SVB had a lot of issues. Federal Reserve Chair, actually, Jerome Powell, echoed her sentiment, calling SVB an outlier with bank management that failed really badly. I'm thinking if they have to get money out of my bank, they're gonna be like, oh, girl, keep your $2. You keep it.
I was in San Francisco last week, and walking by the boarded up SVB banks was a little bittersweet.
Aww.
Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told the American Bankers Association that the banking system remains sound and the fallout from those banks is stabilizing, LOL. Adding that their collapse is different from 2008 financial crisis. She says the financial system is significantly stronger than it was 15 years ago, due to reforms put in place after the crisis. Didn't Trump unwind all those, though?
Kinda.
Yeah, so half of them anyway. Greg says
I got me and Greg gonna fight. Okay, let's go.
So Yellen says regulators are continuing to monitor conditions closely, and they're working to determine exactly what caused the recent failures.
Greg, I think we know what caused it. A 2018 bank deregulation bill signed by a lot of your favorite person, a lot of y'all's favorite person, is what caused it. Now, this isn't political, Greg. It's just facts. It was a rollback of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act put in place after the 2008 crisis strictly to guard against something like this happening. In contrast, the 2018 Economic Growth Regulatory Relief and Consumer Protection Act was signed in 2018. Now, that law reduced the number of banks that were subject to stronger federal oversight, eliminating enhanced regulation for banks just like Signature Bank. I looked both bills up, Greg. We're not going to fight, which anybody can do. All you got to do is go to congress.gov. Yes. And the amount of sneaky deregulation is insane to actually read for yourself. However, Greg, I can see why some lawmakers may have liked other aspects of this bill, like protection for veterans, especially when it comes to medical debt. I was reading the whole thing and I was like, wait, there's so much in here, but why can't we have both? Why can't we have bank regulation and credit help for vets? But there's more to this. Okay, Greg, I'm gonna get to you in a minute because I know you're just chomping.
And for those of you not watching our show, Greg is in the studio shaking his head.
He's so like mad at me. Oh, you can't wait to go at me. SVB specialized in the credit needs of tech startup companies, risky, venture capitalist firms, risky, and was also heavily involved in crypto, risky. So SVB took risks, but don't all banks do that? I know a lot of y'all hate regulation, Greg and Steve and probably Dave, but this seems like a perfect example of why we need it. I'll open the floor for your angry responses.
Go, Greg. Let's hear this.
All right. First off, the 2018 deregulation, if that's what you want to call it, it didn't roll back anything. It changed rules that only affected lower or smaller size banks. Okay. SVB was one of the largest banks in America. It did not change anything for that. The rule that was passed way back in the day underneath Obama, by the way, that one is what did it. The real issue here and the loophole, the reason why this got caused is those government bonds were considered risk-free. So there was no negative side to it. And because of being called before the bonds matured, that basically made them have to, sell it for a less price. And anytime someone goes, hey, give me 20% of your wealth, you're not that liquid. You're not going to be able to get it. So basically, Greg, it didn't happen because of that. And number two, did Trump's regulation hurt SVB? Not in the slightest. And the next time someone tells you anything about SVB, ask him one question. Can you give me the current dirty price of the 20-year Treasury bond? And if they can't, they shouldn't have an opinion on bonds or anything, therefore, anywhere near it. Okay. No, the deregulation 2018 didn't do it. And no, I don't like Trump. It's just, you got to blame someone.
Well, yeah, we got to blame someone.
Who do you think the mass is going to blame? Let's blame Trump.
Well, since it happened in 2018, we got to blame the administration that was in office then. And I read through all of it, which I've never really done before. And it was for banks that were from 50 billion to 250 billion. And there are a lot of small banks. Like I live in Texas. Guess what? I have money in a bank that's small. I don't want it to go belly up. I want them to be regulated.
But Greg said SVB was a large bank.
But it's considered 250 billion, right? It goes up to 250 billion.
There were no changes. The reason why it failed is simply because government bonds were considered risk-free. So when they do the stress on them, they don't account for them because they were unrealized losses because there were no losses. So because of that, it doesn't matter if the bank was worth $1 or $1 trillion. The government couldn't do anything about it. And by the way, the government has been talking to this bank for months, basically, about the issue of this stuff, all these unsecured bonds, because they had a high amount. What happened was one of these rich people, Peter Thiel, found out about it and said, hey, I got to pull my company's money out of this before someone else's does. And then he told his little buddies, and then him and three other companies pulled out $42 billion in one day. That is 20% of everything in the bank. Of course they can't cash that deposit, right? If I come to you and say, give me 20% of your wealth right now, if you could do that, right? That's a problem. First off, you shouldn't have 20% of your wealth in your checking account. It should be in investments and assets, things like that, right? You couldn't do it. Neither can the bank. Neither can almost any bank, okay? So really, SVB was kind of unlucky I tell people that it's like SVB pissed somebody off because him and his buddies got together and say, guess what? I could just say, hey, give me my money slowly over this time. But what I'm going to do is just stick you with the bill right now. So in my mind, I have this weird thing in the back of my head is someone at that bank made someone mad. And then Peter Thiel took it out on.
That could be in the CEO. He withdrew, $3.5 million or something 2 days before, but part of his scheduled divestiture. And that was a top 16 bank. And I was in San Francisco last week, and I'm walking around looking at these branches that are shuttered. And although I never use them, I heard from my friends about half of them use their services. So 50% of them were like, what are we going to do for payroll? But luckily, the U.S. government stepped in. But you know what's weird?
What?
They weren't very technical with APIs and online services. Now, that's contrary to what you'd think.
Yeah. I mean, but here's my question to you. There's all these other banks that are at risk. Are they really at risk? I mean, what can happen? Could it happen to anybody?
Okay, so first off, the rate thing, I don't want to hear like, oh, the rates are going up. We're not making as much money now. Well, you weren't complaining when rates were at zero and you're making a killing. You should have saved a little bit of the money when you're making millions of dollars for the bad year, right? So I don't want to hear anybody's crying about that. You're not going to get a tear from me. I'm just going to laugh as I walk away with your money.
This is
Number
evil.
two, these smaller banks, okay, yes, they have a lot of real estate backings. So if the real estate market kind of comes down, that could hurt these regional banks. That's probably the biggest fear, I believe. But you got to understand, banks have to invest the money. They have to, or they get fined. So it is what it is. I don't think it's a real risk. I think it's all about Americans' fear. If we think that banking is going to collapse, we rush and try to get our money out.
Well,
That's basically what happened. And then that's a run on the banks. That's about it. So as long as the majority of Americans, let's just say 20% of Americans don't go out and try to take all their money out, or companies do it, then you don't have an issue. So I don't really see that happening. You never know. I hear crazy stuff all the time. People coming to me. Someone told me that banks were going to go to zero. You need to go buy and get crypto. That's the dumbest.
So dumb.
Crypto versus this makes no sense whatsoever. It'd be the same way. Crypto going down is kind of similar to the same way. People wanted to sell their crypto fast, so they sold crypto and basically crashed most of those little the crypto wallets. I'm not going to call them banks. Let someone else talk about that.
The new Starbucks CEO, Laxman Narasham, did I say that right?
Hell if I know. It's his name.
Either. He's putting in work, literally. He's promising to work at the company's cafes once a month.
Oh.
Now, he might actually be able to make a yummy iced dirty chai latte,
Oh,
too.
it's my favorite.
Because, how did I know that? Because he underwent 40 hours of barista training when he joined the company last year. That's right. Narishman says he's working behind the counter in an effort to keep Starbucks close to their culture and the customers. But is this a good thing? Because his monthly barista gig comes during a really turbulent time with Starbucks employees who just took part in a strike calling for higher wages, better benefits, and safer working conditions. You know what? I kind of did this too.
What?
When I was the in-house inventor at Radio Shack 2 decades ago, I would go around to the stores in the nation, and there were 7,200 of them at the time.
Oh my gosh, so many Radio Shacks.
Yeah, and I'd listen to what questions the associates were getting and would help them out with solutions. So it's kind of like being there to get the heartbeat of the customer.
Well, you need that, but I feel like he's doing it for a reason. It's because baristas and Starbucks employees are pissed. And they're trying to start unions, and so it's a good thing, but it's good timing too.
But they're getting continuing ed, and there's been a lot of programs at Starbucks. Has been very progressive early on before the unionization, but maybe they're seeing what Apple's going through.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. They got Kim Kardashian last year, so they should have seen this coming. I mean, Stevie Wonder saw it coming. I'm talking about Lindsay Lohan, Soulja Boy, Jake Paul, Austin Mahone, and other celebrities who are being slammed with fines for violating disclosure agreements. Now, the SEC says they failed to disclose the fact that they've been paid to promote cryptocurrency sites like Tronix. Lindsay Lohan, who was paid $10,000 to promote Tronix tokens in 2021, says she didn't know about the disclosure requirement when she endorsed it. So she's going to have to pay $30,000 and she only made 10. But here's my question. They only gave Lindsay $10,000. Let's pay her to do a What's Next Wall Street commercial. $10,000. I'm going to have her show up at my son's Sweet 16 party. Tronics paid Jake Paul $25,000, and now he's got to pay like $75,000 in fines to the SEC. It just doesn't seem worth it.
These guys should be better investors, like Ryan Reynolds, who just sold Mint to T-Mobile for over $1 billion. Reynolds currently holds a minority ownership stake in the company and has a creative role in the company, which is why you see him in the ads.
Yeah.
But still, I'm going to miss him on screen talking so suave.
Yes.
And our final little bit of news, it's goodbye glass holes.
Wait, what?
Yep, Google has stopped selling their glass project after nearly 10 years. Now, they did take a pause in 2015 to stop selling to consumer nerds after they were getting literally knocked off people's faces in San Francisco bars. But Google, true story, Google reintroduced them as enterprise tools for airline assembly workers and warehouse teams. But even those people didn't want to look like huge nerds wearing them. Good riddance, digital eyeglasses. Now, you know, Georgia, I'm still not sure how Apple's headphone users look cool and aren't called Bluetooth.
I know,
Remember
right?
that? Like the original Ericsson and Motorola
Yes.
earpieces were for their wares.
Yeah.
It must have been that $50 million white headphone dancing silhouette campaign.
Probably,
Do you remember that?
probably, yeah.
That was back in 2004.
Oh my gosh. Wow. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a huge stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free.
And it's so easy to create a free job post on LinkedIn Jobs. Then you can add the job and the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile. And that way you can let everyone know that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and ultimately hire.
That's right. Now, this is the time to get the right people on your team. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. It's why small businesses like LinkedIn Jobs is #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors.
So post your job for free at linkedin.com/WNWS. That's linkedin.com/WNWS to post your free job. Terms and conditions apply. Today's pro tip is brought to you by the OptionsPlayers.com OP Ladies Room. Hello, ladies. The first ever all-female trading room. Is that
Meeting
true?
in the ladies' room.
Are you in that?
Of course I'm in it. What are
All
you talking
right.
about? I'm not giving advice, but I'm in it, listening,
All
learning.
right. Well, the tip is skim your account. As the options player stacks, that means money, grow, traders should skim their account and move into longer plays, rewards, or other verticals so the options trading side remains hungry and risk adverse. I think this is another way to say it. My dad says, keep your powder dry.
Okay.
But I don't know
like
what he's
that.
talking about.
I like that, Dad. Let's get him on the show, have him explain it.
Okay. We all see this all the time. Traders take months to stack gains, only to lose those gains in one poor decision. Skimming the account takes us out of the equation and allows for healthy and fun snacking.
Snacking? I think you mean stacking. Shut up. Okay, y'all, now it's your turn. If you've got questions, we can help you answer them. You can always post your questions on social media at What's Next Wall Street, in the comments section on our YouTube page, or email us at WNW@OptionsPlayers.com. This email comes from Ed in Nebraska, who writes, with all the news regarding crypto and the banks, which crypto coins do you think will emerge winners? Or are they all going to suffer the same fate since the U.S. government is not a fan? Greg, what do you think?
First off, which crypto coins should you invest in? One of the main ones. Don't buy any of the small ones. But, I mean, are they going to have the same thing as the banks? I mean, in a way, I would look at it through a common sense. First is, are your friends purchasing it? Do they have extra money to purchase? Okay. We have $1,000 in our hand. If that $1,000 has to pay for food, housing, and other stuff, I know that's a lot more than $1,000, but just work with me here. How much do I have left over that can go into investments in crypto? Okay. So if that's lower, then they might not be investing. So if you start to see people investing, that might be a good sign when you start hearing it. I think inflation is even the better part of that. And I really want to focus on energy costs.
Okay.
So to mine a Bitcoin, let's just give it a number and say it costs $20,000 to mine a Bitcoin. I'm just going to say that. That means every time a miner mines a Bitcoin, they have to sell that to pay for the cost to actually mine it. So as that price gets higher or the cost gets lower, that being energy going down, they don't have to sell as many Bitcoins to actually fund, their mining process, which basically reduces the supply of coins that need to be sold. Therefore, there's a difference in equilibrium there. So economics 101 says the price would go up because there's less for sale. That's if they hold it. So, but really it's all about human behavior. I can't tell you which way it's going to go. It's crypto. It could go to 1 million tomorrow or be at 0 in a week. Who knows?
I'll tell you, it definitely won't go to 1 million tomorrow. And that is a fact. And next up, we've got a question from Susan in Memphis, Tennessee. What happens when there's a bank run at all banks at the same time? We kind of dug into that a little bit ago. Has there anything been remotely close to this scenario? Greg, the 1930s? Was there bank runs?
Yeah, it would have been 1929 and 1930. There's bank runs there from all over. There was people that went and deposited money and then came back like an hour later to try to get like a buck or something, and it was gone. Like they weren't allowed to give it out. So, and yes, that's probably it. I guess there was a bank run in 2008, essentially, but we didn't really hear about that one so much. It wasn't near the Great Depression bank run. Yeah,
but that 2008 thing, a lot of it was because of over lending in the housing market, which was all paper losses anyway. So, all right.
So really think about how much cash is out there. We have $100 trillion worth of cash, right? I mean, that's about what the wealth is in the world, in the United States probably. And there's only a few $1 trillion in cash. You get what I'm saying? You can't even withdraw that much. The government hasn't even printed that much cash. So
it's a lot different now than it was then because we all have investments in so many different things, not just, back then. Now the average person has stock. If you make $50,000 a year, you probably have a little bit of stock. But back then you just had your corn crop or your money. You know what I mean? Right. So
I wonder what the old teleprompter guy, he has under his mattress.
I know. I can tell you, but it's
it's a gun. If you've got a question like that, we can probably answer it, or Georgia can. So hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street in the comments section on our YouTube page. We love seeing those comments. Thank you for those. Or email us at WNW@OptionsPlayers.com. All right, I am back, Georgia, from 2 weeks of travel. Do you believe that? The first was South by Southwest, or as the cool kids call it, South by.
Okay.
Where I spoke about the commercialization of AI and how companies are still trying to figure this out. It started with machine learning in 1999. Your TiVo would record things for you. And then now we've got full AI, robots being weird. So on my panel, I had the director of innovation from a Houston hospital group who uses AI to sort through patient data, which, by the way, that's a complex process due to privacy issues. The CEO of another company, Nesh, uses AI, check this out, to read data sheets of complex chemicals, and then it makes suggestions for alternatives when a factory is out of a particular formula. Now, finally, my buddy Rob, who runs AI Foundation, who's working to develop deepfake detection, like what we're going to talk about in a second, and is also spinning out an app, Georgia, it's going to make your own AI.
I love it. I want my own AI.
Yep, it's going to monitor your calendars and email, and it'll act as an agent for you.
I need that. I need an agent. No, I got an agent. I love her.
Agent.
But,
different
agent.
Okay. Yeah, but I thought you'd like that.
Yeah, I did.
But AI generally is a bit of trial and error. It's a mess right now. My analogy is this. Back in the late 90s, before cable modems and fiber to the curb, your home telephone line would use a modem, and it would blast a bunch of signals down a scratchy connection, and it would kind of do this challenge and response to see the speed that it could connect to the modem on the other end. As modems got faster, the host you would dial into would blast even more crazy high-pitched tones. Do you remember this?
Of course.
We were around in 97.
I was like 3, but yeah, go ahead.
That's funny. Didn't we have a show back then? I can never remember the name of it.
I can never remember it.
So weird. So typically, the speed of your modems was around 33.6 bits per second.
Right.
And that's very slow. If you're lucky, you could get somewhere near 56,000 bits per second. Now, those numbers are atrocious, but this challenge and response is what we're seeing today with services like Bing and Bing within Chat and OpenAI's GPT, and upcoming version 4, which is being commercialized at the website po.com, but you can only ask one GPT-4 question a day. And each of these language models has larger and larger data sets that you're being able to query. Now, the inner workings of these artificial intelligence deep learning modules are notoriously difficult to understand and interpret, which often leads to unexpected or even undesirable output. Now, that's what the engineers call hallucinations. Can you believe this?
Wow, AI hallucinations. Who knew?
That's right. So here's the example, this challenge and response.
Okay.
Text may appear and then may be quickly deleted in the generated output, making it difficult for users predict or control the model's behavior.
Okay.
Now, AI researchers continue to work on techniques to improve the interoperability and the controllability of these models, but the complexity of the underlying neural networks makes it an ongoing challenge. See, these commercial AI processes are being trained on whatever data sets like the medical records, product safety sheets, or like I was saying with your agent, your own inbox has. Then the black box, which we don't really know what that is, the AI, tries to make sense of it and communicate it to you in a natural language way. So think about it. Both the modems of yesteryear struggle with noisy phone lines, and the black box of OpenAI and other AI models highlight the ever-present challenges that technology developers face. Now, DARPA, U.S. Government Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, easy for me to say, created the Black Box Challenge AI in 2018, involving ongoing research to improve interoperability and control. Now, the challenge was designed to encourage researchers to develop methods for understanding how these AI systems make decisions. It's essentially poking into this black box. It involved creating algorithms that could analyze the decision and find processes around the machine learning systems, which those are complex algorithms to begin with, but they never really reveal how those decisions are reached. Okay. So the goal of this challenge was to help increase transparency and accountability in AI systems. But participants in the AI Black Box Challenge were given access to a data set of black box decision-making processes and were tasked with developing algorithms that could accurately predict the outcomes. Are you seeing what a mess this is?
What? Yeah.
But the challenge is seen as an important step in developing AI systems that are more explainable and trustworthy. Now, what happens to create decisions is still unknown. And that's not boding well for Elon Musk and his self-driving Tesla vehicle crashes. Think about it. As an owner of a self-driving Tesla, I'm beta testing, I'm a backup driver in fear. And it misses things like stop signs and speed bumps due to sun flares, trees, blocking signage, or just bad sensor input.
Yeah.
Now,
but so do people miss
that's
stop
true.
Signs due to...
Yeah, but when people crash, they don't make news. When Tesla does, it does.
That's true.
So that wraps up a little bit of AI for South by commercialization. But this week we're recording, I was at the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco, where the topic was AI text chat and image creation services, which are a little bit easier for you and I to play with than a Tesla FSD AI model. But look at what's coming out of that. A fake series of photos created by Elliot Higgins, the founder of the open source investigative outlet Bellingcat, were conjured by Midjourney and of Trump being arrested. Now, he wasn't arrested,
So
but check this out. These pictures are amazing.
But listen, anybody could do these pictures. We don't need AI to do these pictures. We've been making pictures like this forever.
That's true, but what you see here is a little bit
though. That looks good.
like the expressions that did not exist, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
He pushed these to Twitter and they were seen by 5 million people in 2 days. Now, Elliot was banned from Midjourney without explanation, which is the site he used to create
We don't need an explanation. This is why.
Because a lot of people are going to have this image of Trump in their heads despite it being fabricated. Now, services like Midjourney that are AI generative art sites,
is horrible.
They still screw up things like fingers in humans and don't really make sense of the nuances in our world. Take, for instance, this image that was created with the term, Trump gets pepper sprayed. What's shown is Trump being soaked in milk, which tells a novice that the AI engine saw a lot of photos with people splashing milk on their face to counteract the capsicum in pepper spray. The actual spraying is not rendered due to the lack of captured source images. So the AI is ignorant to the action versus the result.
Okay, very cool.
Isn't that crazy?
You know, if you're watching, you have to watch this on YouTube and see these images. Actually, they're super cool.
And then finally, I love this one, Georgia. He asked Midjourney for an image of Donald Trump carving a key out of soap, to escape. So Higgins said it generated an orange Donald Trump out of soap,
Lord.
which is interesting, but as he said, not what he was going for.
That's great.
So Elon is having some perhaps Twitter AI or maybe his own emoji-filled brain write poems for him as he tweeted, "Take that, ChatGPT." Now, I used the AI to skip to the good part about a fake 1-week relationship between myself and Taylor Swift. And it wrote a pretty good song about how inspirational I was for her that 1 week.
Oh my gosh.
Look, this is just having fun right now. I'm clearly excited about AI and can talk about it all day, but developers are slowly increasing its capabilities. And right now, it's an infant.
Yeah.
It's like a 56K modem connecting at 33.6.
Got it. You brought it all the way around.
You see how I did that?
Yes.
The robots aren't going to take over the world yet, and Alexa or HAL 9000, whichever you use at home, will probably open those pod bay doors if you politely ask.
Okay. Bad news for all you sneakerheads. I'm talking to you, teleprompter guy. Foot Locker plans to close more than 400 of its mall stores. Now, Foot Locker says the change is going to help it just adjust to business to connect with niche markets. Now, Foot Locker's Lace Up, that's cute, right? Plan is aimed at resetting its business and growing its total revenue to $9.5 billion by 2026. So they're going to close the underperforming mall stores, which they say is 10% of their business, yet they plan to open 100 or hundreds of new concept stores. So, I spent like from 15 to 21 working in malls, right? But this was the late 80s, like 89, early 90s. Malls
for
were
someone
so
who doesn't
popular.
date herself, you kind of dated yourself.
I know I did, but that's
you are
because
timeless. Though,
malls were
Georgia.
the bomb. Like, you went to the mall just to do anything. But even by the time I was in my mid-20s, I became a boutique shopper just because I liked the uniqueness of it. And when you think about sneakers now, these aren't your dad's sneakers anymore, although dad's sneakers were popular and cost like $2,000 last year. My husband has Christian Dior sneakers that cost $1 gazillion. He has Red Bottoms, Givenchy, Golden Goose, and even Gucci sneakers and more. They're not selling those at Foot Locker. They mentioned standalone stores, but if they're just selling more of the same product, I think they're going to get more of the same results. Foot Locker's chief merchandising officer, Chris Santella, says they're going to feature more LeBron James and Kevin Durant, retro Nike shoes for the holiday season this year, and that they're going to revitalize their partnership with Nike. Excuse me, dude. You can buy Jordans, Bronze, and KDs on Amazon. So why do I need to go to a standalone store to do this? Bottom line is for me, Greg, is Foot Locker, my question is Foot Locker on its way out? Or should I be buying stock in it now? And should I hold it while we wait for these changes to take effect? I just think my kids, and I have boys, they don't really buy stuff at Foot Locker anymore. They buy it from these, especially my 17-year-old loves sneakers. He wants specialty sneakers. He doesn't want the sneakers everybody has. So he wants something. He wants Nikes, but he wants some custom designed. He wants off-white that some YouTuber has designed. So I just feel like Foot Locker is going to, if they're going to do boutiques, they're going to have to try to merge with one of these designers. Like, look, I got Gucci Crocs. You know what I mean? I think they're going to have to do a little bit more of that if they want to get there. What do you think, Greg?
Well, I think I'll date myself. I was born in 82. And all we did when we were teenagers especially before we could drive, was we'd get dropped off at the mall and we'd walk around. Probably kids now are probably too lazy to walk around the mall or something. But there's escalators. You can go up and down over and over. But you go to the mall now, there's a lot of empty stores or just stores, and it was just where we went, right? It was where the food was, everything, right? Mm-hmm. Now that's just not the case. So I think Foot Locker, it's good if you're invested in Foot Locker. I'm not saying sell or buy, but they had to look at it and say, hey, we're not making money, or we're slowly losing our profit margins in these mall locations. We have to change. Yeah. Okay, so that's a positive that they see that. I don't really see any new stores saying, hey, let's go into a mall. Normally, I would probably say like a small little strip mall or something like that. You see these old Nike stores pop up, but they're not doing good either. So I think it's more on your what you said is
Boutiques.
as more people are getting comfortable buying shoes on the internet.
Yeah.
Like for me, I'd be like, well, I don't know. I wear 12s and New Balance, but 11 and a half in Nikes. What do I wear in Gucci sneakers? How would I know that? You know what I'm saying? So
Something tells me, Greg, you'll never know that. That's just what I'm thinking.
But let me tell you something, Greg. New Balance are the bomb right now. Like New Balance are. So if you're wearing New Balance, I know you're wearing the
Those
old
are
gray
dad
ones.
shoes.
No, they're not. New Balance. Listen,
I only wear New Balance.
New Balance
See
are
what I
so
mean?
in.
I only
literally-
buy the ones made in the United States.
Guess what? They sell New Balance at Neiman's, bro. Seriously, like cool colors, cool. See, you brought it back and didn't even know you were bringing it back. There you go, Greg. Thank you for that.
That's funny. All right, we want to thank lead instructor at Options Players, Mr. Greg Krause, for being here with us today.
Thanks, Greg. Hey, remember, if you've got questions, we can try to help you answer them, and we'll probably just go into a little rabbit hole, but that's fun. We would love to hear from you, so email us at www.optionsplayers.com or hit us up on social media at What's Next Wall Street.
Don't forget, if you're listening on podcast now, you can actually watch what we're saying and see all this great artwork we had from the AI-generated Trump fake arrest on our Options Players YouTube page, or listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you subscribe, hit that alert button, and leave us some comments. We love hearing from you. I am Dave Mathews.
And I am George Alfredas. We will see you next week on What's Next Wall Street.
Oh, yeah.